Dr. Love. That can be the title today.
Another episode.
We made it. I have Obama with me today. Can you believe we're still saying we can make it through this?
We're still saying
No, we're still saying it.
We are still saying it. That is the crazy thing about it.
Hi.
Hi, Holly.
Hi, Hollie's home.
Chicken's saying hi. Chicken is so happy this month. It's all about turkey.
Yeah.
No chicken.
How are you guys?
Good. You know.
You know. Continuing apocalypse, but we're still here.
Still in lockdown. Oh,
still here.
We have a big lockdown going on here. That's for sure. So
we are. Our county just went to purple because apparently that's worse than red. So what's purple? Maybe black? I don't know. Maybe we just all dig holes and live in them. I'm not sure what we do next.
I don't either.
It's not good. So I hope everybody out there is staying safe and wearing your masks. Please.
Wearing your mask, please.
Please. And in fact, I just talked to a friend of mine who sells beauty counter, and she's ordering some stuff for my face because I've been wearing a mask so much, my face is breaking out.
Yes.
But there is
maskne. That's what they're calling it, maskne.
Yes. It
maskne.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird because I feel like I haven't really changed my ways since the beginning. I've been just a recluse at home, working from home, only going out when you have to.
Yep.
I wear a mask with Debriana, or we're 6 feet apart. We don't ever. It's just become a thing, and I haven't even got as much as a cold from wearing a mask. So
yep.
I think they really do work. And I just got tested yesterday. And I don't have the virus, and I don't have the antibodies. I haven't been exposed to it, so
yeah, that's good.
You know, it works. These parameters work. I know it's frustrating, but it's something we have to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
For health and safety.
Yes, it is. So it's important. So on that segue, another thing we have to do is Thanksgiving dinner. Boom. Did you see that segment? Did you see how that worked?
Good one, Hollie.
Clever.
Good one.
Very clever. Yeah, we are going to do Thanksgiving dinner in whatever form it is. I had to look. I actually had to ask behind the counter for a small turkey because I had all the big ones out in the aisle. Yeah. And I'm like, no 22-pounder for me this year.
I mean, no, it's all smaller groups. So I don't know why when I went to the market, all the big turkeys were gone too, I noticed. So It's like, what? I guess people have big families.
Lots of leftovers? You're going to eat turkey?
Lots of leftovers, yeah.
An episode on leftovers. Well, I'll show you what I hold that thought. So this is what I'm going to do tonight for all the stuffing I'm making today. I bought a little turkey breast.
Oh, cute.
Turkey breast, so you can this is something if it's just you and your partner, or even if it's just you and a few people, this is a nice way to still have turkey.
More exciting.
So I'll show that tonight when I do the photos at the end to show everybody the little turkey breast. But I do that every once in a while for us. They also sell turkey drumsticks and turkey wings, and as you can imagine, they're enormous. So again, if you don't want to cook a bird, you can, it just looks funny next to the chicken wings, you know, because they're like this big. I
bought extra turkey wings today because that's my favorite part of the turkey. And since I'm only making a small one, I bought extra wings to add to my turkey.
Wow. Nice. Okay, so I just want to, before we dive into your stuffing, Hollie, say to all the people watching that tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday are going to be Debriana's Festival of Turkey.
Turkey Palooza.
That's it, a Turkey Palooza.
It's the ultimate Turkey Palooza, and you're not going to want to miss this. So Going hand in hand with that is as Holly brought up, the triple crown of Thanksgiving foods: turkey, stuffing, and mashed potatoes. So the stuffing, can we just all agree right now that it is so important? But how many times have you had someone's bad stuffing? It's like, I have.
Yeah.
And it's not hard if you know how it works. And you're going to break it down for the foolproof basic. And then we're going to discuss all the kinds of crazy you can go with it. You can get as fancy as you want. But here is Hollie's basic that it's foolproof.
That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure.
So
yes, and the little breast is puny. It is, but that was an intentional pune.
Puny breast.
It's an intentional pune.
My nickname in high school. No, I was kidding.
So I think it's important to remember with Thanksgiving is I always tell people that feel intimidated by cooking a Thanksgiving dinner, it's really important to have because you have so many flavors on one plate. I like to make sure that the turkey, the stuffing, and the mashed potatoes, the Holy Trinity, is always has the same herb flavor profile, or in general spice flavor profile, depending on which direction you want to head in culturally. I just so happen to make a holiday blend. See that? Where is it? I've been practicing.
Where is it? It's somewhere right here.
Where's the salt? Where's the salt? This is sage, savory, and thyme. Savory is actually an herb. We've talked about it before. I grow winter savory. It's in the thyme family. So if you don't have savory, just use extra thyme. But you really need sage and thyme at a minimum. And those 2 to 3 herb flavors are wonderful for Thanksgiving, and they go perfectly with it. So I put a little bit in my mashed potatoes. I use quite a bit of my stuffing, and I do it all over my turkey with olive oil, after olive oil drizzled. So if you keep the same flavor profile, you don't have competing flavors on your plate, because remember, Thanksgiving, you're piling this all on one big plate. So it's really important that you're not having these, taste wars with your foods. So great way to do that is to keep the herbs the same. So stuffing. So difference between stuffing and dressing. Can we just discuss that real quickly?
Talk about that.
So stuffing and dressing are stuffing and dressing are the same thing. The difference is the stuffing is when you cook it and you stick it in the cavity of the turkey and you let it cook there. Dressing is when it's cooked outside the turkey. So technically today we are making dressing. But everybody calls it stuffing. So people stopped stuffing the birds, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago, because they were worried about salmonella. And also if you have vegetarians dining with you. Yes, our mom, religious, she's a stuffer. She does always stuff.
I stuff.
We stuff.
Hey, I have a question.
We're stuffers.
What exactly is poultry seasoning made from when you buy it from the store?
So that's an excellent question. And I don't know the answer to that, because you have to read the back of the label. Now, generally, it should be things like sage. It should be maybe some onion powder. Maybe there's some thyme in it. Those are the flavors that you want. But what you don't want are the anti-caking agents. You don't want iodized salt. You don't want any other artificial flavor. When it just says flavorings or natural flavors, that's not food. So it's best not to get those. What you can do is you're better off buying dried sage, dried thyme, and dried savory, and adding it to your salt, or just using those, like a teaspoon of those dried herbs. Now for stuffing and for the turkey, for stuffing especially, I use dried. Now when you make the turkey, I actually use fresh bouquets that I'll put in when I'm baking the turkey. Stuffing, because
he doesn't stuff.
For the dressing and stuffing. Is that fresh thyme is very astringent. If you've ever gotten a piece of it fresh, it can be very astringent tasting. So I don't like it in my stuffing or in the mashed potatoes, because it can get, once it's dried, it mellows it out. And also you're going to be cooking these things for a longer period of time. So it's better. Dried herbs are better for the things that have a longer cooking time. So I'd stay away from the fresh herbs. With the exception, we're going to put some fresh parsley in this, but with the exception of that, the rest of them should be dried. So don't worry. You don't need to buy poultry seasoning. You just need to buy sage, savory, and thyme, or at least
And
thyme.
salt. Good
And
salt.
and that's
Good
all you need.
pepper.
Yeah. So you don't need all the other junk that they put in that stuff sometimes. It's really important to read the label. Now, if you read the label and you like it, then you're all set.
I mean, it kind of reminds me of the Doritos of poultry seasoning. You know what I mean? Like you put that stuff on and it doesn't taste real.
Well, sometimes they add sugar in those things too.
They do.
I mean,
they sneak in all kinds of awfulness in there. So it's really important to read the ingredients.
You just had really good sea salt, amazing salt. That was just whatever your oiling, whatever your fat carrier is, and salt. I mean, it's enough. I mean, it really is. You don't have to overthink it. The herbs lend an essence, but that's your salting. You know, it comes down to salting.
So we're gonna live now. This is Thanksgiving. This is not a time to be dieting. So we are
living large.
No diets right now.
At least 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and for stuffing, I actually like to add some butter too. So I do both.
Me too.
We're gonna do at least.
I had 3 fats last night, Holly.
3 fats are out. Okay, so that's probably 2 tablespoons of butter as well. So we're gonna start with the onions. We're gonna do this 2 ways. We're gonna cook this in the pot, and we're also gonna bake it in the oven. So we're gonna start by chopping. Now chop everything pretty finely. You don't want to have big pieces. This really needs to cook down. And we're going to do at least. We're doing. Oh my God, the onions are making me cry.
Usually, I'm the one that cries.
If you put them in the fridge, they don't. But I think I've had them out to them. Okay, so we're gonna do. We're actually gonna do 2 cups of onions.
That's a big giant onion.
This is an enormous onion. So try not to cry. Okay.
I love onion.
There's lots to cry about.
There's nothing better. It really is just such a good.
I love onions. Oh my gosh, Debriana, I am changing my Brussels sprout recipe now. I am never going to use onion again. I am only going to do the crispy shallot. It was so
good, right? Yeah.
I ate it for breakfast. For God's sake.
For breakfast. Oh my God, I'm crying.
Well, David's been jamming on the cranberry chutney with his turkey sandwiches. I'm like, you're still eating turkey? Okay.
That Lisa's cranberry chutney is sort of infamous in our family. It's so good.
Yeah.
Well, I made it on the show, and I have a giant mason jar of it, and I'm just taking it to Thanksgiving. It's already done.
Yay.
Yeah,
sandwiches. Thank you.
Hold on, let me just dry my hands.
Oh, look, it's dark outside.
I know. You know, I was thinking, Holly, of when I think of our grandmother, Nana, and her stuffing. She had amazing, delicious stuffing. What was it about her stuffing that made it so good?
I think Mom makes a version of hers. And I make a version of Mom. So I think every time it gets passed down to the next generation, we each give it our own little twist. You know, I think Nana, Thanksgiving was complicated, in our family, as in many families, when you're first and second generation. You have your dishes that you bring from your family of origin, and then you have sort of these American traditions. And so I think for us, she sort of made her Adriatic, Croatian version of things. And so I think that's why it always tasted so good to us.
But what I'm getting at also is the whole discussion of using the
innards
and the innards.
Oh, I use them
for flavoring, when a lot of people are grossed out by that, but it really is what makes it so good.
Well, I always remind people that the liver and the heart, those actually are full of nutrition. And the least nutritious part of poultry is the meat. So back in the medieval times, the peasants ate the breasts, and the lords and ladies ate all the gizzards and all of the kidneys and the heart, because those were the more nutritious. There was a class thing.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So
I use them in my, I actually use it in my gravy too, even though everyone tells me I don't like it in gravy, and they always love my gravy.
And they don't know the secret.
Yeah, I think of it as like if you use anchovy or anchovy paste in anything, it's the same to me as using sort of the liver in this. My mom always uses the liver, and she cooks it down. It dissolves. You don't know what's in there, but it really does give a richness of flavor. And that I make mine vegetarian, because we usually have a few vegetarians that come to our Thanksgiving. So I usually make I've just come to make it that way. But I always take the neck and the heart, and I put it on the stove, and I add water and a little bit of this salt with the herbs in it and some onion, and I cook it down like a chicken broth. I'm basically making a chicken broth. And that you can use throughout the day, you know, basting your turkey.
Yeah,
and
that's what I do.
Your thing. So it's good to have that on the stovetop.
Okay.
Okay.
But that's a level though that a lot of people don't do. And I think you're missing out on a complexity that's really, really important when you need to try it. If you haven't ever done that,
Don't be afraid to try.
Oh yeah, that it's integral to the turkey for me.
The easiest one is the liver, and that you can just cook in a pot with some, you know, a cup of water, boil it down till it kind of dissolves. And then at this point, when I'm cooking, is when, as soon as I added the broth is when I'd add it. So it all just kind of melts in. And so you're not going to really.
Or you give it to your cat, like me.
That's like, yeah.
Like,
they like it.
Hello.
That's a delicacy.
So,
what are you doing? You adding about a cup of
yes, I'm adding a cup of celery. I'm adding a cup of celery, and I always like to make sure you use the leaves if they're on your stock. Try to make your onion and your celery and carrots are next all the same size, because they are going to be cooking together. And this is really important that these cook down. You really want them to cook down, get nice and translucent. Now we're going to add some carrots.
You're making a mirepoix.
Oh, cool.
Mirepoix is what it is. Which is French for what? Anybody? Anyone have that?
It's the Holy Three. The Holy Trinity.
The Holy Trinity. Well, the Holy Trinity isn't the Cajun, where it's the bell pepper and the onion and.
Well, that's their version, but really the Holy Trinity is carrot, celery, onion. The French,
Francais.
And then everyone has a version of it.
Yeah, every country, every culture.
Or culture, yeah.
So we're gonna do another. We're also gonna do a cup of carrots, chopped carrots.
What are those, baby carrots?
They're little baby carrots. Just a little shortcut, so I don't have to do anything else. It's quick chop. We got mouths to feed here. I don't have time to be peeling and chopping. They actually have the different colored ones that I like.
That's what I always like. Yeah.
You can get creative with this. But it's just important, if you get this base down, this foundation, then the rest of it's where you can start to expand it, or just leave it as is. Okay, so we're going to just keep mixing this within that butter and oil.
Will you tilt it so we can see it for a second?
Yeah, let me get the pot holders. Hold on.
Yeah, don't burn yourself.
No burning. Oh, look how pretty.
Beautiful.
So it's important that you don't. This is high, a little medium high. You don't want it to blacken or brown. A little bit of browning is okay. You just don't want it to. Definitely don't want it to burn. You really don't want it to get black. I kind of like it. Once the carrots and the celery go in, it puts quite a bit of moisture in there. That's why you always start with the onions. Give them a little bit of time to heat up. And that moisture will really prevent it from burning, because it's not going to like sear at the bottom of the pan. Okay. I think we need one more carrot. All right, so that's 2 cups of onions, 1 cup of celery, 1 cup carrots. Okay, and this, at this point, is when you're going to add the salt, which I don't have my spoon, but I'm going to tell you how much this is. We're going to do.
I did that last night.
That's got to be about a tablespoon. It's a lot of salt. We're going to really salt this now because I'm going to tell you why. First of all, that's going to help sweat down the onions. And my stuffing mix, I get unseasoned because I like to have my own seasons and I don't want to compete with the seasoning I'm putting in here with my salt. It's good to get unseasoned. Now, if you don't want to do that, get the seasoning kind, but just make sure you know what seasoning you're using. So if it says sage or if it says parsley or whatever it says on it, just make sure you're also adding those flavors with your turkey and your mashed potatoes so they all match and meld.
So what's in that? Is that basically like crouton bread?
This is a local bakery here in Santa Cruz, so it's not too far. Beckman's there at the farmers market. I love them. They do all kinds of breads and specialty cakes and stuff. So this is wheat. This is a combination. It's wheat bread, sourdough, because we're here in the Bay Area. We have to have our sourdough, and rye. And then my mom always says you have to add some cornbread also. So I'm doing my ratio is 2 to 1. So for every 2 cups of the regular, I add 1 cup of corn. Again, up to you. The corn makes it a little sweet, because the corn naturally has a little bit of a sweet flavor. Some people like to just do it all corn. Some people don't want the corn. It's up to you. I like it mom's way, the 2 to 1 ratio. I think that's a good mix, a good way to do it. Okay, so we're still, these still need to sweat down a little bit more.
Debrianna, what kind do you use? What do you use for your bread?
I use a combination. I use the Trader Joe's bread. I make my own breadcrumbs. And so I make them from the whole wheat sourdough, regular sourdough, and green chili cheese bread.
Ooh.
It's good.
Good. Yeah, so basically this is toast, people. This is toast that's cut into little squares. That's all that is. There's no mystery about what it is. It's just
cut it into squares. I tear it. I let it. Generally, when I do it, I tear it the night before I'm going to use it, or 2 nights before. I lay it out on baking sheets, and I just let them sit in the oven till they dry themselves out.
Yeah, and so you can't. It's basically. Anytime you see old bread, dried bread in a recipe, these are leftover recipes, right? Things to help stretch and pull out on a budget. So I'm sure this originally came from, the stuffing came from a way to give people more carbs to eat, when they were eating. So I'm chopping up some parsley right now. Why this is cooking, why the carrots and the onions and so are cooking down, I'm going to chop up some fresh parsley. This will be the only fresh herb I'm using.
Isn't it part of like the Pilgrims, they made Yorkshire puddings and stuff like that, and this seems to me to be sort of it's one of their heirloom things too, of just like making bread last and adding it to some kind of animal.
Yeah, you're rehydrating stale bread. That's basically what you're doing. And
so we're put about a quarter
in the freezer
fresh parsley in here real quick. But we're gonna wait. This is with the rather fresh parsley after this has cooked down some. So now,
you're rehydrating bread and adding just flavors to it, and
so nothing gets wasted, right? And when before they had refrigeration and all these other things, and you had all this bread. You had to do something with it, and when it gets hard,
even just the ends.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure that's where it came from. Okay, so look how gorgeous this looks. How pretty. Be a quick color.
Nice.
Love it.
Okay. So that is our base essentially, and it smells like Thanksgiving in my house right now, and it's just that so simple, sage, savory, and thyme. I'm telling you, that's Thanksgiving right there. Okay. So we're going to add the liquid now, and then after the liquid, we're going to sort of fold in the bread, and there's 2 ways to do it after that. My mom likes to cook it on the stovetop, which Deborah and I connected the dots, which is why they probably call it stovetop stuffing. And then,
like my post, I was ragging on stovetop stuffing.
So the other way, so I'm going to do half in the pot, and then the other half I'm going to put in this baking dish, and we're going to bake this in the oven. And I like to cover it for a little bit just to make sure everything gets warm, and then take the top off so the top gets crispy for the last 10 minutes. Okay. And if the oven's on 375, is now on 375. Okay. Where's my, here it is, measuring cup. Okay, so we're going to add, so it's important when you're using chicken broth, I always use low sodium because we've already added our salt. It's really important not to get this over salted. So just be mindful of that when you're cooking.
Well, and if you have regular chicken stock, then just cut the amount of salt you add at the beginning. That's all.
Okay, so I'm going to add 2 cups. We're going to start there. 2 cups of chicken broth to our celery, carrot, onion, parsley mixture, and herbs. Okay, just going to mix that around. Okay, I'm also going to add a half a cup of white wine because in our family, if you don't add wine, there's something wrong with you.
I use wine. I also use pomegranate juice or cranberry juice in mine.
Those are great ideas. Those are really good tips. Okay, so we're just going to let this heat through a little bit. We're going to get our, we're going to start with our regular. So we're going to
They had some pretty breadcrumbs today at Whole Foods.
Did they?
Yeah.
Yep, if they had them all bagged up and they looked all pretty.
In the bakery section.
But, you know, well, it was by where all the turkeys were in the meat department.
Okay.
But they had beautiful salads there too.
You know what? Let's just do all this because I have quite a bit. So we're going to do 4 cups of the regular.
And how much is that going to serve? How many will that serve? Do you know?
Well, this is going to serve at least, because I'm doing 2. I'm doing 1 on the stovetop and 1 in the baking dish. So the baking just depends on, again, if you're talking about like my husband and son, or are you talking about like normal people that eat? So if it's Orion and Jack, that's about a serving for 3 or 4 in the dish here. But mere mortals, it's probably. So, sorry, guys, but it's true. Okay. So we're going to follow our ratio, our 2-to-1 ratio here. So this is the cornbread. So we're going to do.
Okay. I love cornbread.
Me too.
So then we're just going to slowly take our spoon and just kind of come from the bottom, scoop from the bottom and scoop up around. And just make sure we've coated all of this bread.
Like you don't want to break down the bread. You want to keep it.
Yeah. The thing about cooking it on the stovetop, the trick with the stovetop is that, you know, you don't want it to get gooey. You know, you don't want it to have the consistency.
Mealy.
Yeah. So turn your heat down.
Yeah.
Turn your heat down to simmer. And we're really just going to let this all soak in that liquid. So the non-exact science of this is actually, this is pretty good. Actually, we got that right. But as you go, especially the one on the stovetop, you're going to want to add chicken broth as you go, just to make sure it has moisture. I don't like super dry stuffing. I think it's better a little wetter. So again, it depends on how you like it. And you can regulate that as you go by adding more stuff.
So you had 6 cups of breadcrumbs?
Yes.
So I would probably, if it were me, I would add at least a half a stick of butter.
So what we're going to do is we can add more butter. I'm going to butter the dish.
Yes.
Put it in. And we can also drizzle a little bit of olive oil, add a little bit of butter on the top.
Yeah, that also helps. That's another way of the breadcrumbs not drying out without adding liquid to it.
Right. Okay, so where did it
fat? It's all about the fat.
The fat, baby.
People, that's stuffing. So that's all I did, right? So we did carrots, onion, celery, olive oil, butter, and we added some parsley. Then we added our liquids.
And salt.
And salt. Then
And you're not going to add an egg?
Nothing. You don't need an egg. Nope, you don't need it. This is going to be
pepper. No pepper.
I always do.
You know, we can add a little pepper if you want, but honestly, this I've got a little rye bread in here in this mixed ingredient,
Nice.
and it doesn't really need any pepper. So
this is like stuffing, the most basic stuffing, but it will taste delicious. It won't be
super
dry.
simple. Okay, see how simple that is? See how gorgeous?
Mm-hmm.
I might have to taste some just to make sure it's not poisonous. It's good. Okay. That's all I'm going to add a little more salt because we've added all that bread and get more herbs in it with because this has my sage and my savory and my thyme. And again, at this point, so we're going to add another, that was probably another tablespoon of salt. So let's give that a good mix.
Yeah, it's important to taste it as you go, so then you know if you need what more you need to add.
So we're going to add a little bit.
That's the secret to everything. You have to taste it.
You got to taste as you go. So I'm going to butter the bottom of this baking pan. And this is a small little baking pan. Like usually when, there's my dog Biscuit. She's going to help me. Biscuit
wants a drop.
You going to eat some of the celery? Okay. So we're going to put a nice healthy thing of butter on the bottom of this. Spread that around. Let me get my hand washed.
Now, if you want to get fancy, I've done this before too. I cook a pumpkin, a scooped out pumpkin the day before till it's just cooked a little bit, you know, like not cooked all the way through.
Yeah.
Because then I add the stuffing and then I cook the last 30 minutes in the pumpkin. And then you can serve it that way. It's super pretty.
Beautiful.
So one of the things I like to do too is once your gravy is done with your turkey, I always take a little bit and drizzle it on top.
Yeah.
And that will help give it, again, extra fat and flavor. Okay. So we're going to fill the baking dish here.
Then you get the crispy bits, which you don't get when you do it on the stove top. So that's why that nice oblong dish gives you more surface for crispy bits.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to add a tiny bit more, just sprinkle a little more chicken broth and one more little thing of salt. Then I'm going to get my aluminum foil.
So here's the other thing. If you're going to cook it in the pumpkin has moisture in it. So that goes into so you don't need as wet a stuffing to go into the pumpkin.
That's the number one, pro of putting the stuffing inside the turkey and not doing it like we're doing it today. Because when it's inside the turkey, it's going to absorb all those good juices from the turkey. So
that's the best stuffing right there.
Temperature
that's
when
the best part is the one in the bird.
When you're doing the stuffing inside the.
I'm gonna do a poll tomorrow for your turkey palooza, and I'm gonna say, do you stuff? Yes or no? And see who on Instagram who does it.
This just gets wrapped, and then we're gonna put this in the oven. It's going to be in there about 20 minutes, and then we're going to take the top off for about 10 minutes and let it get crispy. And then the stuff on the stove, I like this a little more wet, so we can add a little more butter.
Yeah, on the top of the stove, it probably needs a little more moisture.
A tablespoon of butter, and then another half a cup of chicken broth. We'll just give this a little mix. And this can just hang out here. This is one of those things that can hang out on your stove. You can put the lid on. You don't have to put the lid on. You can just put it on the back while you're cooking other things, like when the mashed potatoes and all of them are ready. So this is basically.
Yum. I want some right now. So, okay, let's talk about, now that you have the base, which is perfectly fine to do and delicious.
What do
you both do when you're getting fancy? What do you do?
Debriana, you go, because you got all the fancy pants recipes.
Yeah. Well, if I don't make this stuffing, I have mutiny on the bounty over here. So I use mushrooms, chestnuts, Italian sausage, and I told you my 3 breads, whole wheat sourdough and green chili cheese bread. And I usually use about a cup of cranberry juice or pomegranate juice, unsweetened, to help wet it and add that sort of it's a fruit flavor, but it's not super sweet. And that's probably the fancier part of my stuffing. Sometimes, obviously, I put it in the pumpkin, and sometimes it's just the bird in the dish, cooked in the bird.
No, sorry. Okay.
But Italian sausage has to go into my stuffing.
Oh yeah, I really like to. I think mushrooms make a stuffing. Like I really believe in adding the mushrooms, whether
they
it's
add moisture too. They add moisture.
Yeah, they add a moisture.
You
Yeah.
really, and the flavor. There's just a flavor that they add that's really amazing too. I love to put sausage in mine as well, and I also like to put prunes in mine.
Oh, nice.
And
regular stuffing.
Chestnut, yeah, chestnuts, prunes, sausage, mushrooms. We have
That way you don't need to add the greens.
Who needs green? But you know, but it's just you get that level of, or I'll put raisins or some kind of dried fruit, dried cherries.
Mm-hmm.
I really find that it just makes it. I love doing that, but. And I also love putting, having it stuffing the bird. And that, to me, that's the spoonful I take from my plate.
Yeah, the one that came out of the bird. Yeah, me too. Sometimes I'll add dried cranberries.
Dried cranberries can be good.
Yeah.
I like to add sun-dried tomatoes sometimes. You can really chop up, that's good. Or even artichoke hearts.
Yep.
Chop up artichoke hearts. Another thing is apples. You can cut fresh,
apples.
Really tart apples. Some kind of green apple would be good, or an apricot. I like pecans or pecans, depending on where you live. I think those.
I had an ex. His mom called them pecans.
Or pecans.
Pecans. I'm like, what?
Pecans. Whatever floats your boat. You can put those in there too. So that gives a nice little crunch. You could even do pine nuts for a little more Italian.
I've done pine nuts
before. Okay, so here's the thing you can do afterwards for leftovers. If you take the stuffing and you add eggs to it, you can make little patties.
Pancakes.
And saute those, and those are delicious. It's a delicious way to use the leftovers.
I've done that. Also, you can have an herb that's the main herb. Like I've made rosemary.
Yep, I had rosemary.
And have just this one main herb flavor, in it, or sage for sure. Trying to think of other things. Oh,
well, we were talking earlier about oyster dressing, which I've made before. It's not a big favorite of mine, but
one year I did sort of a Cajun spiced rub on the turkey. And so again, to make sure all the flavors combined well, I did a andouille sausage oyster thing, and it was delicious. So, again, depending on what sort of flavor profiles you want to hit here, just make sure that you're doing the rest of your turkey and your mashed potatoes all have a little bit of that flavor too. And really, the herbs are sage, savory, thyme. Rosemary is good. Just be careful with rosemary. It's very strong and can overpower. Sage is also very strong. So make sure you're tasting along the way. And remember, when you're using dried herbs, like, I was just trying it earlier. When I try it again, that sage will really start to release the more it cooks that flavor.
Well, you'll see what I do with my turkey and sage.
I can't wait. Oh, I use dried apricots sometimes.
Yeah, I love dried apricots.
And also,
whose family has a Russian recipe? That's not that they don't have Thanksgiving in Russia.
I'm sure they're thankful in Russia. Of course they do.
So it must be a stuffing recipe. They're saying they have a recipe, old family recipe that has a lot of different kinds of meat all ground up. That sounds good.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Is that an actual stuffing?
I'm not sure what they're saying, but
who remembers the metal meat grinder thing? The metal grinder thing? What's that?
Or what you're stuffing a
trout.
what do they call the turduncan? That's the turkey and the duck.
Oh,
and
no, don't ever do that.
That's a lot of, that's a
We
whole
gave
lot
the nicks on that last time, Debriana and I really.
Well, my sister made it and she said, don't ever do it.
You know, I personally find that it just, if you do things simply and well, they always taste good. And these
That's
ingredients,
a great place to start.
All these ingredients that we use today are simple. They have really nice flavor profiles, and they're going to all go well together with your turkey and your mashed potatoes. So if you start here, and then after here, you can, see what kinds of things you like. But honestly, I think some of the best Thanksgivings are the ones that just use really good, fresh, simple ingredients. You don't have to go.
Okay, now I'm going to have to get in on this conversation offline. I don't know what you're talking about. What is the metal grinder thing?
She might be talking about making sausage or something.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. Well,
you're grinding your own meat.
Let's talk about before we leave you, Holly. We were just saying earlier, maybe you don't want to make a turkey this year because it's just so few people. Maybe you want to do a crown roast. Maybe you want to just make some lamb chops. You'd still make the stuffing. You could still make the mashed potatoes, but I
do a crown roast of pork and I stuff the middle of it. I wrap it around in a circle.
You don't have to make a turkey. You don't have
stuffing in the middle.
That's a great idea, Debriana. I like that. You can also do like I'm doing. Remember the little. It's not that little. It's kind of heavy pulling it over here. The little turkey breast.
Yeah. The puny breast.
Turkey breast.
You can, you don't have to go crazy this year. Give yourself a pass.
Right.
Okay, it's a pandemic. You don't have to go nuts. Okay, but it would be just do it if it's fun for you. You know what I mean? Like this should be fun to do.
Yeah, totally.
Sure.
You could do this with pork chops or a pork tenderloin. You could do it with. If you're a vegetarian, you can do big portobello mushrooms, and bake those.
Or a big squash.
Those all go really nicely with all. And again, same flavor profile: sage, savory, thyme, maybe a tiny bit of rosemary.
Vegetable broth instead. Yeah. All right. So I'm floating some stuff in the front for you guys. So Hollie's pop-up store is floating by you. Okay, we all know Fair Fight. Her holiday gift collective on Instagram is where you can get a bunch of different artists' handmade gifts. And that this year we're trying to support, community. So that's one way. Pandemicoflove.com/partners is a way you can help families that have been hit and have lost loved ones through COVID. And Envoys For Humanity, that's another postcard writing group. If you want to join a postcard writing group, they also have online Zoom meetings where you can just hang out and write postcards and listen to good music. So we need everybody's help to get that Georgia election.
Yes. And you also have Fair Fight on there.
Yep.
STACEY ABRAMS.
STACEY ABRAMS group, and or the GASenate.com is another place you can donate, and they will divide the money between the candidates. So there you go.
Great. Well, thank you,
Holly.
Thankful for you guys. Thank you.
Thankful for you.
Oh.
Yay.
And you.
Everybody wear a mask.
Wear your mask.
Because this is the cray time.
Am I going
to some bad stuffing now?
We'll see you tomorrow. The Turkey Fest begins. Tomorrow. Happy
Bye,
Thanksgiving.
guys. Everyone be safe. Wear a mask.